Hello students, I am your educator Tanvi. Hope you all are doing good. We'll be starting with our biology lessons with the chapter 6 life processes. It's a lengthy chapter, so our discussion is divided into different parts. So let's get started. First of all, what are life processes? See, life and processes means obviously in a living organism, whatever processes biologically, biochemical reactions that are taking place in our body, that is in totality refers to the life process, and those life processes are very much essential for an organism to survive. So we can define that the processes which together perform maintenance processes which are essential for survival of an organism are called life processes. So what are maintenance process? Because see, an organism is growing, it is dividing, and some cells are also getting old, right? So it needs repairing also. So all those processes together are called as life processes. For example, nutrition, that is uptake of food, respiration, breakdown of food, excretion, the release of undigested food. All these processes are life processes. And these processes will define that an organism is living. So what is the criteria if anyone asks you to define an organism being living or non-living? That is, a living organism will be possessing these life processes, and the non-living organism will not be having such processes. Now to the next concept, let's see molecular movements. What are molecular movements? You know what molecules are, the small substances, okay? So the movement of different molecules in our body is very much essential, okay, because repairing is done, growing of different organs, different cells, formation of tissues. This is you can say continuous process. So these movements are needed. Like if we talk about cell, okay, there is one cell, and in the surrounding medium, suppose glucose is there, okay, so this cell, to release energy, it will uptake the glucose, it will take up the glucose. So these are molecular movements, okay. It is very essential. Then living beings must keep repairing and maintaining. This is what I am focusing on, that not only growing but also repairing the old tissues, old cells, getting rid of the dead cells, okay. All these processes are being continuously happening in our body. Then another concept is simple diffusion. Now what is diffusion? Remember in grade 9 we have discussed about diffusion, that is the movement of gases from a higher concentration area to a lower concentration, okay. So simple diffusion, it cannot meet requirements of multicellular organisms. Why? See, multicellular means organism made up of many cells. Now in unicellular organisms, simplest example we can take of amoeba. It can directly take up things from the surrounding by diffusion, okay, and it can also get rid of the undigested wastes by diffusion. But in case of multicellular organisms, it is made up of many cells. So to all the cells, all the cells cannot be in direct contact with the environment, right? See, single cell, because it is unicellular organism, single cell can be in direct contact with the environment. But in a multicellular organism, there are so many cells. So all the cells cannot be in direct contact with the environment, right? So simple diffusion cannot meet the requirements. So that is why we have organ systems in multicellular organisms, because only diffusion will not solve the purpose. So let us begin with a very important life process, that is nutrition. So in this presentation we will be focusing on one life process, that is nutrition. This we have studied in lower classes, that nutrition refers to uptake of food material by any living organism, that is nutrition. So taking up of food is nutrition. This also, I think you might be knowing that nutrition is of two types: autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition. See, in biology, there are so many terms. You can simplify these terms by just dividing or splitting the term. Like autotrophic, auto and trophic. Auto means self, means organisms, or it is type of nutrition in which an organism makes its own food. Hetero generally means dependent or diverse, okay. So dependent nutrition means in this type of nutrition, organism is dependent for food on some other organism. So let us look at the major differences, and this is very important. Autotrophic nutrition means that simple food materials like carbon dioxide and water, these are being used up. In heterotrophic nutrition, food is obtained directly or indirectly by plants. Organisms which are using this type of nutrition are called as autotrophs, and organisms using heterotrophic nutrition are called heterotrophs. Now, very important, in autotrophic nutrition, complex material is formed, that is glucose. And in heterotrophic, because they are taking up the plant material only, so this glucose, which is the complex material, it is being used. Okay, so in autotrophic, the complex material is formed, and in heterotrophic, this complex material is utilized. Now, in autotrophic nutrition, the main organelle which is involved in such type of nutrition is chloroplast, because this is the site of photosynthesis, means where the food will be prepared. And in case of heterotrophic nutrition, because the food has to be now split up, or you can say utilized, that is in mitochondria and cytoplasm, which is the site for respiration. Respiration means degradation or breakdown of glucose to release energy. Now, looking at some examples, autotrophic nutrition, plants and even some bacteria, we find autotrophic nutrition. And heterotrophs, animals, humans and fungus, these are heterotrophs. Now, coming to autotrophic nutrition. Autotrophic nutrition, generally it happens in plants and in some bacteria. So plants synthesize their own food using carbon dioxide and water. So these are the raw materials which are used in the autotrophic nutrition. Now, this reaction is super important for birds. See, in the presence of solar energy, that is sunlight, photosynthesis happens, and there is a pigment in leaves called as chlorophyll, green pigment, through which this solar energy is absorbed. And this is how carbon dioxide and water, see, carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and water from the soil, the plant will take up, and it will form glucose and oxygen. It will release oxygen and glucose. Both are utilized by different organisms, and in humans also glucose and oxygen is being utilized. So this reaction, just remember, balancing and everything, very much important. So the main things, coming to a chlorophyll, green pigment which is present in leaves is chlorophyll. So this chlorophyll is the pigment which is going to absorb the sunlight. Then after absorbing the light energy from sun, it is converted into chemical energy. That is how glucose is being formed. So carbon dioxide is reduced to glucose. Another important concept, carbon dioxide is reduced to glucose. All right. And remember, water also the plant uses, and oxygen is released. So sometimes it is pointed out that this oxygen, O, this O comes from carbon dioxide or water. Think about it. Listen again. This O of oxygen, it comes from carbon dioxide or water? It comes from water, because CO2 is being reduced to glucose. So which O is left? The O, oxygen of water, right? So carbon dioxide is reduced to glucose, and come again the oxygen, O2, this O comes from water, right? Now carbohydrates which are not used up by plants immediately, these are stored in the form of starch. This you should remember. Starch is nothing but a polymer of glucose only. So whenever plant requires it, it will utilize, otherwise it is immediately stored as starch. Now, exchange of gases like carbon dioxide we discussed, it occurs through pores which are present in leaves, and these pores are called stomata. And stomata also, because exchange of gases has to happen, so sometimes stomata will be open, other time it will be closed. So this opening and closing of stomata is controlled by guard cells. So from the name only, guard means it is guarding the structure of stomata. It is preventing the you can say collapse of stomata. Why stomata can collapse? Just see, when stomata closes, guard cells are going to shrink, and when the stomatal pore opens, guard cells will swell. So if these guard cells are not present, then stomata might collapse also. So these are regulating. diagram. See, this is open stomatal pore. Okay, this is the stomatal pore, and these are the guard cells which are containing chloroplast. And this is closed stomatal pore. You can see it is closed. So when the stomata is closing, guard cells, you can see they are shrinking. And when it will open, because the pore has to widen, that is why these guard cells will swell. So that this is the guard cell, and these are the subsidiary cells. So this guard cell is going to swell because this stomata has to open. Now, what is the function of stomata? It directly helps in exchange of gases as well as exchange of water in the form of transpiration. Now, another important concept is that events of photosynthesis, they do not take place one after the other. Means it is not like this, that okay, in the daytime sunlight is being utilized and carbon dioxide is going to be reduced to carbohydrate and then oxygen is formed immediately. It's not like this. Sometimes it is stepwise process. Like in desert plants, what happens? At night time they will take up carbon dioxide, okay, and they will form intermediate. And when the day comes, this intermediate will be formed into glucose. So it is a stepwise process. Now you can see clearly here the diagram of a leaf. Okay, you should know the different parts of a leaf. This is midrib. This is the leaf blade or lamina, and these are the veins. See, like this. This is the leaf. Okay, so this is the midrib. These are the veins, and this particular leaf is the lamina or leaf blade. And a cross section has been shown over here, where it is clearly shown that in the lower epidermis of the leaf there are stomata present and guard cells, you can see. So in the leaf, chloroplasts are also there, some air spaces are also there for the proper exchange of gases. Okay, so now there are few activities discussed in NCERT which are very important for your boards. The reasoning questions, it comes from these activities only. So we are going to discuss these activities as the last part of the presentation. So first thing is that chlorophyll is essential for photosynthesis. By now I think you know that chlorophyll is the green pigment present in leaves. It absorbs the sunlight and it is very much essential for photosynthesis. Now, how to prove this? For this, one experiment is there. Variegated leaves of potted plant like money plant and croton. So here croton is being shown. Variegated means, you can see clearly over here, there are green patches and yellow patches. So there is a you can say reason for taking these leaves, which I'll explain you when we finish this activity. So all the reasonings you should understand very nicely, because the reasoning questions come from these steps only, that why this we use, why we use this chemical, etc. So variegated leaves means the leaf containing green and this yellow patch. So you can use any plant, money plant, croton. This is important. Which plant contains variegated leaves? So these are the examples you should know. Now first step is, after taking such plants, you keep it in dark for 3 days. Now what is the purpose of keeping in dark? Because in dark, can photosynthesis happen? No, photosynthesis cannot happen. So what will happen? The plant has to use the food, it has to synthesize the food. So whatever starch is stored, or whatever glucose was there and has been stored in the form of starch, it will be getting used up. Okay, like in case of humans, you take our example only. When we fast, it is not like this that if we keep fast for 1-2 days we are going to die. No, because our body has stored a reserve food material, and during those days, fasting days, we can use that. Same with the plants. Plants have stored the glucose in the form of starch. So when we keep it in dark, all the starch will get used up because photosynthesis is not happening. So this is first reasoning question, that why we are keeping the plant in dark, because we want that all the starch is used up. Now next step is, we keep this plant in sunlight for 6 hours. Why? Because now we want that fresh photosynthesis should happen. Whatever photosynthesis happened earlier, whatever starch was formed is now used up. Now from scratch the photosynthesis will happen. After keeping the plant in sunlight for 6 hours, what we will do, we will pluck one leaf and we are going to mark the green areas, and we will trace Why? Because we want to prove that the green areas contain chlorophyll, and these are the only areas where photosynthesis will occur. Okay, we have to prove this point. So we are doing the tracing. After this, we will dip the leaf in boiling water. What is the need? Because after boiling, cells will be killed, no more photosynthesis can happen. Plus it also softens the cuticle. Cuticle is the thick epidermis, or you can say epidermis is the outer protective layer. Outside the epidermis, sometimes there is a thick layer which is called as cuticle for protection. So it will soften the cuticle. Why we want to soften the cuticle? Just see over here. Because afterwards we have to immerse this leaf in beaker containing alcohol. Now why using alcohol? Alcohol will dissolve chlorophyll, means the green color of the leaf is gone. Okay, the green color of the leaf is gone. Why we do this? Coming to it. Next, heat the beaker in water bath till alcohol begins to boil. So now we are keeping this beaker which is having alcohol in water bath. Water bath is nothing but an instrument where water is there and we can heat the water. Okay, and the beaker we can keep in this heated water. Leaf will be decolorized because alcohol will dissolve chlorophyll. After this, we are going to dip leaf in dilute iodine solution. Now what this iodine solution will do? It will turn starch blue-black. Now listen to it very, very carefully. See, iodine test is a test to see where starch is present. Wherever starch will be present, iodine is going to react with starch and it will produce a compound which is blue-black in color. So for example, I give you a sample and I say test it for the presence of starch. You will put iodine drops, and if it turns blue-black, means starch was present. And if it doesn't turn blue-black, means the starch was not present. So what we have to prove over here? That in the variegated leaves, green areas were there, yellow areas were there. But only in green areas where chlorophyll is present, there only photosynthesis is happening. Okay, in yellow areas it is not happening. So in green areas, when photosynthesis happen, what is formed? Glucose, and obviously glucose will be stored in the form of starch. Okay, so we will do starch test. Now in the green areas, starch test will be positive, and in yellow areas, starch test will be negative. So means blue-black color is present in green areas, means that chlorophyll is very much essential for photosynthesis. Okay, now that is why we were decolorizing the leaf, because we need to clearly see blue-black color. Now imagine the leaf is also green, we are putting iodine on the leaf, so green color plus the blue-black color, it will give a very hazy result. So what we want, that background color should not be there. So that is why we were decolorizing the leaf, alright, and we were heating it also, boiling it also, so that iodine easily goes inside the leaf and reacts with starch, and giving us the result that only in green areas starch is present and only green areas will turn blue-black on addition of iodine. Now next activity. Carbon dioxide is essential for photosynthesis. Now here it is very simple experiment. You can see diagrammatically there are two situations. We are taking two healthy potted plants and we are keeping it in dark for 3 days. Can you guess the reason why? Yes, because we want all the starch to be used up and we want to start from the scratch. So we are now covering it with bell jar. Can you see these two plants? And we are covering it with bell jar. We are also sealing the bell jar so that no, you can say oxygen or anything from the atmosphere, carbon dioxide, anything should enter. Okay. Now, listen here. In one of the potted plant, this bell jar, we are keeping a wash flask. Okay, and that is containing potassium hydroxide. In the other, no potassium hydroxide. So whatever carbon dioxide is trapped in it, and with the help of this carbon dioxide, this plant can carry out photosynthesis. But what we do after doing this, we just check Because KOH, that is potassium hydroxide, it absorbs carbon dioxide. So in this plant where potassium hydroxide was kept, carbon dioxide reacted. All the carbon dioxide was used up by KOH. So the plant cannot have any CO2. So what will happen? Without CO2, photosynthesis will not happen. So when we pluck a leaf from this plant, there is no starch formed. So the starch test is negative. Now, the last activity, it is sunlight is essential for photosynthesis. Now, can you think of any experiment? Now, you take 2 potted plants and keep it in dark. That is the first step. Keep one of them in sunlight. So, we need to prove that one plant was kept in sunlight and the other was not kept in sunlight, right? So, the plant which was kept in sunlight will give positive starch test, and the plant which was not kept in sunlight will give negative. Okay, so what we have done, taken 2 potted plants, keep one of them, here only one, okay, and we will check the presence of starch. So the one which was kept in sunlight will give positive starch test, and one which was not kept in sunlight will give negative. So means without sunlight, photosynthesis cannot occur.